Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Jason's in the House. I'm your host, Jason Parisella with Keller Williams Realty right here in Beverly. And our guests today are Beverly Police Officer Brian Long, and he's with the Crime Prevention Unit in Beverly. And we also have Police Sergeant Dan Brown with the Crime Prevention Unit, and he's the liaison with the Beverly Senior Citizens. So welcome, Brian and Dan.
Thanks.
Great to have you on the show. Brian, we
you.
just had you on our last show. We're talking about different topics,
Hey,
but
keeping
nice
me
to have you
busy,
back.
Jason.
Yeah.
Keeping me busy.
So today we're going to be talking about personal safety, street smarts, and also we're going to get into cybersecurity, scams, online safety, because unfortunately, a lot of crimes too are now happening so-called online. So we'll talk about that. So Brian, let's start with you. Personal safety, street smarts, what are you seeing? What are the trends? What are some things we need to be,
if
people need to be aware
of? If we
of?
can break it down into a couple of categories, what we're seeing things that are happening at home, things that are happening if you're driving in your car, or things that are happening when you're just out in public. So let's kind of go with at home. What we're seeing at home is you're seeing a lot of, now that people do a lot of online ordering of items, you'll see a lot of the deliveries will drop the boxes of whatever your package is, and then 10 minutes later, someone from the neighborhood, some criminal type minded person is going to come up and scoop up that package. So we see a lot of that, but what works in our favor is a lot of people have home security cameras, and that'll help us to try to identify those types of crimes. What you don't necessarily see with home crimes is you'll see house breaks between, say, 9 and 1 in the morning, 9 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, because that's most likely time people are not going to be home. People are in school, people are at work. So we'll see house breaks, but house breaks typically kind of go on a trend. You might see 4 or 5 for a month in a couple of weeks in that type of a pattern, then they'll kind of die out. So with house breaks, we would advise people that if you're home, someone knocks on your door, you're not expecting anyone, please don't answer the door. Give us a call, 911, or call from your landline phone and tell us where you live and what's kind of going on, and we'll send an officer or two out there to identify who's pretty much knocking at your door. And what a lot of criminals will do when they're trying to break into your house, they'll knock on your door, and if you don't answer, they're going to come in your house. Now, if they're knocking on your door at 10 in the morning and you don't answer, you're in the shower, they still may come into your house, and that's potentially a volatile situation.
Yeah, so you said don't answer the door. However, so now they think you're not home. They're going to come in anyways.
Yeah, if you're in the shower on the computer or downstairs doing laundry or something like that, and you don't answer the door, then they come into your house, and that could be a potentially volatile situation.
So are they looking for, these days, what are they looking for when they come in normally? Have they already cased the house, or have they cased the neighborhood, or are they looking for certain cars people drive, or which houses are they going after?
They're typically going to go to a house that if there's no cars there, that's one sign that no one's home. In the summer, if your air conditioning isn't on and you have an outside air conditioning unit, if that's not on, that's another sign that you're not home. Mail in the mailbox, that's another sign you're not home. So they typically, and they're not looking to break into a house where people are home. They're looking to take, whether it's your TV, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your cell phone.
So they're just randomly picking houses, though? Or
they will randomly pick houses, but an intelligent criminal, if I want to give them that much credit, but an intelligent criminal will be able to tell who's home, when they're not home, and kind of go into the house and get a feel for what they may have, whether it be jewelry. And it all depends on the neighborhood you live in. Like neighborhoods that have houses that are worth more money, you're going to have more valuables typically inside with jewelry, maybe paintings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, a smart criminal will case the neighborhood.
I was going to say, they probably have a tip-off somehow of which house they want to go to.
Yeah, a smart criminal will definitely do that. Random criminals, just kind of someone who's spontaneously just knocking on doors or trying to break into a car, they will just randomly knock on 5 or 6 doors or shake the door of a car, and whichever one opens up, they'll go in. They don't have much of a plan. They're just spontaneous, and they'll take whatever they can get.
Do you recommend?
Go
ahead, Brian. Go ahead, Dan.
Brian's really accurate with that timing. During the days when they're looking, everyone pictures, the classic burglar all dressed in black from head to toe in the middle of the night. That really is not the most common. It's
so during the day from 9 to 1.
Those are your most likely hours where people are not going to be home. Now, a criminal that breaks into your house at 10 at night, totally different criminal. Because someone who knows your home and they're coming into your house, that's what you're talking about, where sexual crimes and sexual victimization is going to come in, or someone's going to come into your house knowing you're specifically home and they want to do harm to you.
Yeah.
Most criminals do not want to do that. They want to just break into your house, grab your stuff, and get out the door. They come in when you're home at night, totally different criminal.
Yeah.
More volatile, more likely to assault you. So you have to definitely be aware of those type of situations.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you recommend the cameras, the Ring doorbells and the cameras in your homes, or do they cause other problems? Or, I always think too, when you Ring doorbell, depending on what neighborhood you're in, you're videoing not only your front door, you're videoing the street, you're videoing maybe the neighbor's house, you're videoing a lot of other areas.
I think
Does
if you look at it from two perspectives, that's great for your own security. So if you're upstairs in your room and you have your Ring, we don't necessarily endorse any one, but if you have any type of wireless setup, a lot of times you can see it from if you have a smart TV in your bedroom, you can be watching TV and you can have your cameras up there. So that's great, especially if you're home alone or if you live alone, you can put your cameras on and someone's at your doorbell at 10 at night, you can see who's at your door before you let them in or go down there to see them. So for you, that's great. But what we see is people who might not be in tune with that technology, they take it as kind of a invasion of their privacy, and they think that the neighbor who has the video cameras is surveilling them and watching them.
Right.
But 99% of the people are just concerned about their own safety.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, we recommend them all day long. They're definitely a great safety net for you. And when we do investigations, they can help us, but we have to be able to identify who that person is. Because if they're not from
clearly
Beverly,
identify.
yeah, they're nice and clear, they're high def, but if you don't know who the person is, then you just have a picture of someone who just broke into your house, but no one knows who they are. So they're not always 100% accurate.
Yeah. Excellent. Anything, Dan, you want to add to that?
No, I agree. The cameras are a great tool. It's not going to solve everything, but they are all over the place, and they're very, very helpful. That's for sure.
Well, we were talking before the show about cameras, the prevalence of cameras everywhere. So I assume that I'm on camera everywhere I go now.
Yes.
Because it's probably the case. So not that you're thinking about doing something wrong. However, it's like everywhere. Even all the intersections and all the businesses you go to, or even people's homes we just talked about.
Oh, absolutely. It's all over. And like I said, as long as the technology is being used to protect people and give you more of a sense of security and less of a fear of crime, that's great. But there's always that 1% that uses it for other means that probably are not too appropriate.
Right. So what about in your car?
What we see a lot with the cars nowadays is not that road rage is any worse or any better than it's ever been, but what we're seeing now with road rage is people will have an incident. They're driving down Elliott Street, for example, and they'll be on their cell phone calling us, hey, I'm on Elliott Street. There's a lady that just cut me off at the Route 62 off of 128. She's following me. I'm on my cell phone. I'm hitting my brakes, and she's trying to bump me off the road. And it becomes almost like, I'm not going to back off, and she's not going to back off, and he's not going to back off. And then we usually will try to tell them, just back off, pull over to a safe space, and let them go by you. Most people don't want to do that. They want to continue someone's ego was just challenged, and they want to just continue it. And it just really becomes a danger to everyone else, because on your cell phone, if you're driving at a fast rate of speed in traffic at 6 o'clock at night, then now we have accidents that could happen. And then if you do pull over, you never know, the person might take that as a challenge and they get out of their car and there might be some sort of physical altercation. But our advice is just drive at a safe speed, give us a call, and we'll direct you to the Beverly Police Station, assuming you're in Beverly, and you can pull into the back lot and we'll try to intervene at that point. But don't try to intervene on the street, because it usually doesn't work out well for both people involved.
Yeah, I was thinking too, you certainly don't, you want to make sure you're pulling over in a place that's, ideally it's the police station. You don't want to pull over and then the person pulls over next to you and,
Yeah, it usually doesn't work out well. It usually doesn't, and you never know. You never know who you never know who's following you. You never know who that person is.
Yeah, so you got to be careful even pulling over because
Right.
the person pulls over next to you and starts trying to get into your car.
Yeah, so it all comes back to just kind of have more of a respect for the road. And yeah, if someone gets to the red light or someone gets to the four-way stop before you, and just it's more or less a courtesy thing. A lot of things can be alleviated if just people are a little bit more courteous driving,
so you're seeing
less aggressive.
Right, so you're seeing mostly, so the road rage, not necessarily, what about carjacking, people's cars are getting stolen, broken into?
Carjacking
Is that around here,
would be an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's not a common thing. You would obviously it's more common in bigger cities that have higher crime rates. I can't really recall the last carjacking we've had in Beverly, but what more people are victim of in Beverly is going to be just a random car break.
Yeah,
You know, you leave it, and it's usually people who leave their car open because most criminals, they don't want to have to pop the door in your car. They're not going to smash the window typically because now that's going to wake people up. So if you leave your car door open, people just walk by, open the door. If you leave some change in there, leave a camera in there, and leave your laptop in there, whatever valuable you may leave in there overnight, they just grab it. And it's just a random crime. Just
Yeah.
randomly opening doors to cars. So an easy way to not be a victim of that is basically just lock the door to your car. Unless you have a $500 sitting right there on the front seat and your car's locked, more likely than not, they're not going to break the window.
yeah. So Dan, you're doing we talked earlier too, you're doing the overnight shift, right?
Yes.
Are you seeing anything different overnight versus during the day, or is it all the same, as far as what Brian's been talking about?
There's, you're not seeing the B&Es because we discussed how they happen
That's during the day,
yeah. The things with the car breaks, that is a nighttime activity.
More
the
at
car
night.
breaks are most likely gonna happen during the overnight hours, unless like Brian said, unless you have cash right there and someone's walking by, they're going to be opportunistic. It's like, well, this is worth the risk. I see 500 right there. Whereas if you don't know what's in the car, you're never going to break a window to get in there. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, so you don't want to leave anything visible, like
Right.
here's my laptop on the front
Right.
seat,
Right.
that you can see it clearly.
Yeah, it's almost like, and a lot of the criminals, they may be drug dependent, so they're out there looking for something to get money for drugs.
Yep.
Not every criminal or not every person who breaks into a car is drug dependent, but a lot of times, like I said, it's opportunistic. If you just take away the temptation, many of them will just walk right by and just keep on going.
Yeah.
What they will do is they'll go to the next car. If your neighbor keeps their car unlocked, then they're going to victimize your neighbor.
Right.
And keep on down the line. It's called crime displacement. If I can't commit a crime here, I'm going to commit the crime there depending on the circumstances.
Yep. Okay. I want to make sure we cover the online piece too. So let's switch gears and we can go back and forth if we need to too. So what are you seeing on scams? I mean, a lot of the stuff, I think, well, from my perspective as a citizen and a business owner, I see more, I'm seeing a lot of stuff happening online now. People's, just all kinds of things. So what's happening and what's the trend in this?
It's getting worse and worse. The problem is just snowballing because of technology. It's very cost effective to send out the spam, the emails, the robocalls. So the scammers are jumping right on that. It doesn't take.
So people can just stay home. Criminals can stay home, and
That's right.
it makes it easy and just sit on their computer or have a phone and do their thing.
And a lot of them are seasonal too. Like right now, it's tax season, so we see a huge uptick in tax scams. They're looking to steal your identity. They'll say they're from the IRS, either send you an email or call you on the telephone, and they'll say to you, we've been reviewing your tax return, and we noticed that you're actually entitled to a larger return than what was first thought here. There was an error, and we found it, and of course we want to send it to the right person. So all we got to do here is just take a minute to verify, who you are, name, date of birth, address, and of course your social security number. We don't send the money to the wrong person here, and that's what they'll do. And they'll tell you that you're going to get a larger return. There's other things too. They'll say the files got corrupted, and the information's been lost, and they're re-verifying, and there's all kinds of different ways. But that's what they're looking for. They're looking to steal your identity and then they can go from there and do a lot of things. You take out loans, mortgages, credit cards, whatever, once they have your identity.
What's the how are these people getting caught? And how
That's
are you tracking
the thing.
it?
The risk reward is very low. It's very difficult. The scammers know that the resources aren't there. If you're out of state and especially out of the country, you do these without any fear, because the resources just aren't there to come and get you. You can't extradite someone from Arizona for a victim here in Beverly that lost a few $100s. You can't do that.
So you can't even if you knew who the person was. There's
That's
nothing
right.
you can do.
It's not cost effective to be able to do that. The resources just aren't there. They know that. So there's really not much fear out there. So really, a lot of this, almost all of it, really is prevention up front. Because once your money is gone, that's it. There's not going to be a way to get that money back. Because the scammers, they use MoneyGram, Western Union, and that's untraceable money. Those are customers for these companies, and they're not just going to, Beverly PD can't just call you up and say, hey.
Is that one of the benefits, so-called benefits of using those companies, that, because it could be, I guess, good and bad, if you don't want any trace of your money going anywhere?
Well,
Is that what one, because I never personally haven't used those
for
services.
illegal activity, that's the number one way to do it. MoneyGram or Western Union, because it's not
It's
traceable.
just
You can send that money, and it's going to get picked up in an office wherever you designate it, and whoever walks in there, the scammer, who walks in on the other end, of course, is going to have a fake ID. He's going to be Jim Smith or whoever he is. He's going to say, hey, is my money here? Yeah, sure. Here you go. And they give him his money. He walks out the door. It was a fake ID. He wasn't a real person anyway.
Right.
And when you call up and say, yeah, I want to know who picked up that money, that ended up being a scam. And say, that's one of our customers. We can't release that. And the police department would have to subpoena that information, and then you find out, geez, he's in Arizona or maybe even out of the country.
Just like, unfortunately, a lot of things, it costs you more money
Yes.
to prosecute or go after
Just
somebody.
don't have the resources, and they know that. The scammers know that.
I think the point, very good point you made earlier, was prevention.
Yeah.
Understanding how so this doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, you got to educate yourself
Right.
it just, the information is all there. It's if you go to the FTC website, hundreds of scams. So right on there, you can see the different ones. They are publicized. You even run them on BevCam, 4 or 5 of the garden variety ones that people see all the time. Dating scams and some other popular ones. Relatives getting arrested, those types of scams. And you actually do little spots, cartoons that are on BevCam, and they're very effective. It covers it very quickly, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And you can see the nuts and bolts of what it is. So you just need a warning.
So the more your profile gets built up online too, it's easy for somebody to steal it, I would think. So social media, the more you reveal on social media, the more you're out there.
Absolutely.
Everything about your family, your pets.
That's what makes the scams.
Everything that your footprint,
Yeah.
your digital footprint, is almost like someone's looking at you. Okay.
You know,
They get more pieces of information until they pretty much have everything.
The scam you're going to probably start seeing now, and like Dan said, it's kind of situational. Right now is spring break, coming in March for college students. So what they do is, if I'm a scammer and I go out on Facebook or Instagram, whatever account, and that's all they do, they scan those accounts, and they'll look at little Miles, who's going down to Florida. He's an 18-year-old kid, goes to college, and they'll find out who his contacts are, and they'll call a parent or a grandparent or an uncle and say, hey, your grandson Miles got arrested in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we need you to wire down $500 to get him out of jail. And they're going to say, they'll talk about family members. They might talk about his pet. They'll know a lot of information about him from social media.
Right.
And some people will send the money to get their grandson out of jail. So that's situational right now. That's happening. That'll be happening right now during spring break, probably for the next 3 or 4 weeks. That'll be a very big scam, a big money maker, because a lot of people are going to get their grandson out of jail in Florida.
Yeah, well, so I think too, you go after someone that's the most emotional about it, like a grandparent or somebody or whoever it is.
Yeah, and they might not even live in the same state. They might not even know he's down in Florida. Yeah. They could live in California and they haven't heard from him in a couple of months. They're more apt to send that money, to wire that money, and that money's gone.
Yeah. So do you call, because I'm wondering, so now you're talking about money that comes, generally out of a bank account. do you call your bank first? Do you call the police first? You know, who do you call first once you know you've gotten someone's taking your money?
Well, usually it's not going to be out of an account. That's icing on the cake. If the scammer can get your account number, that's a really high.
So I see what you're saying. You're actually sending, like you said,
MoneyGram, Western Union.
You're not giving them the bank. They don't have your bank account info.
Really,
Right.
really.
You're sending them the
Yes.
money.
Gift cards are huge. Those are huge. Scammers will still say, "Hey, we need you to run down to CVS," and
They'll tell you how they want the money.
Yes, because the
So at
gift
that
cards aren't
point,
traceable
you've
either.
already given out. It's gone.
It's gone. That's right.
Because I was thinking, because we've had in real estate, a real big issue where people are buying homes and they're looking to, giving a deposit on the home. The deposit's getting redirected. And so the scammer is getting the account, they're getting the account information, wired it to this account. They act like they're the attorney of the closing.
That's a
I'm the
much-
closing attorney, I
yeah.
just want to get ready for Friday's closing. Please wire your final payment to this account.
That's a more sophisticated
then-
scammer.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
sophisticated.
Then you could call the bank first.
Yeah, that's
tell
probably
them,
going to be your first call. What
you know,
would be the
I
bank?
just got
What happened here? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then they'll tell you to call us.
Yeah. So all those things, and unfortunately, like you said, it's not as easy to. Some of it's pretty much there's nothing you can do about it, especially if they're out of state.
Some of them are very high speed. Yeah, there's some that you it gets explained to you, and you're like that. I would never fall for that. And there's others like the one you described. Right, you didn't do anything wrong, and
Right.
you still become a victim. So yeah, some of them are high speed, and others are certainly avoidable.
What about the ones that start crimes that start online and end up in person? Online dating. Whatever the case may be, where somebody's eventually wanting to meet somebody and then something happens.
Luckily, the online dating, for the most part, there are exceptions, but for the most part, they're looking to steal your money online and never meet up. Once they make a connection with you and they feel comfortable, the scammer is going to usually whip up a story about a sick relative, or they need you to wire the money because they want to come visit you. You've been talking online for a month, and geez, I'd really like to meet you. I don't have the money. Can you send me airfare money to come visit you? And that's how it goes. It's usually a sad story, though, with an operation or someone's sick. But generally speaking, it's a low percentage that end up in the street level with you.
Yeah, at the
their
street level.
intent. Yeah, so those, because that's a different person, or that's looking to meet somebody to do something.
Yeah,
than
the
just
person who's
getting
going to try to
money.
scam you out of money is less. Obviously, they're going to be less volatile and less primitive, and they're just looking for your money. Yeah, the person who meets you online and says, "Hey, meet me at the Kowloon on Friday night," and then you meet that person and they're in the parking lot and things go bad there. That person is definitely looking to do some serious harm to you, whether it be a sexual type of assault
Right.
or a physical type of assault. That's a much more dangerous person. And a lot of people meet people online that way, and I think most people are probably okay, but it's that one incident where your daughter, your son, your sister, brother gets victimized that can just really throw things for a loop. You really have to be careful. You have to try to verify. If they say they're Jimmy Smith and they live in Danvers, you try to see if they have a Facebook or an Instagram account or another account that'll verify who they are so you can get a picture of them. If you see a picture of Jimmy Smith you're supposed to meet at the Kowloon and a completely different person is there saying he is Jimmy Smith,
Right.
then your radar should go up and you should get right back on the highway and keep going.
Yeah. The other thing too is just common sense too. You want to meet people in public areas that
Definitely.
Yeah, back in
not
the day
in
it
the
was
parking
easier.
lot, inside the
30 years ago, you meet someone, you meet them at a McDonald's or a Burger King, you meet them in the
Right.
lunchroom in school, and you walk up to them and say, you want to go out on a date? And they
Right.
say no, and you turn around and walk away. Nowadays, there's no personal interaction, so you can't get a read on
Yeah.
anyone until you meet them at that moment.
It's so much more popular, the online. We were talking about online dating, just like everything online. That's why people are online. There's a lot
right.
of convenience to it, getting your packages delivered, just clicking the button, ordering stuff, meeting people. everybody's busier and busier and busier, and they don't have time to go, or they don't want to go out
You
all night.
sacrifice your safety sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're not telling people not to meet people online.
Right.
We're just saying if you haven't met them in person, you don't want to be sending any money to them, because that is a great way to meet people is online. That's, like you said,
Right.
that's how most people do it online. You just don't want to be sending money to someone you don't know.
Yeah, it's the bottom line, and I think a lot of emotion gets involved, and people feel like, oh, there's no way it's going to happen. This isn't happening to me. There's no way, or you're busy, or I'm talking about, you know, things that are just seem just a normal everyday thing. You know, hey,
Yeah.
I mean, again, going back to real estate. You know, hey, it's time for your deposit. Click the button to wire the money, and you're in a rush, and you just don't think about it.
Oh yeah, a lot of them are
'Cause you just-
timing.
you
That's
just-
right. You
yeah,
just
the
said it. You're in
timing.
a rush. You're in a rush.
And you're not
doing-
really paying attention or whatever.
Yeah.
Not, you know, and then all of a sudden somebody gets you at a bad moment
Yeah.
that you all of a sudden did something.
Yeah, in Street Smarts, we talk about being in the zone, and we talk about that on any given day, the average person, you may have 5 or 6 things you got to do today, Jason. So you're not 100% focused on anything.
Right.
You're focused right now, but generally speaking, I got to get coffee, I'm going to the gym, I got some closings to do. You get 5 or 6 things going on.
Right.
The criminal, whether it's a criminal trying to scam your money or someone to victimize you on the street, one thing going on in their head: either get your money, steal your wallet, take your car, assault you in some way. So that's why they usually win. They're 100% focused for that moment in time where we're not always 100% focused. We get 5 or 6 things spinning in our head. We're talking on our phone, shopping at the store. We leave our phone or our wallet somewhere and going down the aisle to grab some chocolate chip cookies, and boom,
Right.
you grab your wallet. You lose focus for a moment, and they will capitalize on that.
Yeah, I was thinking too. I have a 4-year-old son, so I put him on my car seat. And my wife had mentioned, be really careful when you're doing that, because you have your back. You're totally
Yeah.
like vulnerable.
Right.
When you're not paying attention, when you're doing something else in your car, just even if it's not a child, you're doing something else in your car, you're leaning back, trying to grab something, you have no idea who could be behind you or anything like that. So those
Yeah,
types of situations where you're doing something so innocently, but you're not paying attention, and it's so easy for someone just to,
And
you know, your keys are in the ignition, you're in the
yeah.
back seat, whatever the case may be.
In the
And then
Street
all of a
Smarts
sudden-
program, the first thing we come out and say is criminals look for who's the most vulnerable person out there. If you're vulnerable because you're a young child walking down the street at 10 at night, if you're vulnerable because you might be elderly, if you're vulnerable because you might be intoxicated, you're a guy coming out of a bar or a young girl on campus intoxicated, they will pick out the most vulnerable person. They will victimize that person 99 times out of 100. So you have to try not to look vulnerable.
So I was just wondering too, do people generally kind of like stay in an area and watch?
Absolutely.
Like be in a parking lot, a park, or anywhere where, even outside of a restaurant or a bar, to kind of watch to
That's
see,
exactly
okay,
what
that's the
happens.
person I can.
Absolutely. I mean,
There must be some type of like surveillance going on with criminals, that they're just looking around to see.
Well, hopefully someone will call and say, hey, this guy looks out of place. You know, can you come down and check him out? Because that's kind of one of the myths. People think they're bothering us if they pick up the phone and call and say there's someone in the neighborhood that they don't think belongs. That's how we ID people. Maybe he's someone just visiting someone, and maybe it is something innocent, but now we know who he is, just in case it goes the other way. He's a bad guy who's hanging around the neighborhood. Now we know who he is too, and he knows we know who he is. So that's you're never bothering us when you call up and say, hey, you know, he doesn't look like he belongs here, or,
Yep.
or you know, can you come down and check him out? He's hanging around. And
So the closing thought is to report anything that's unusual, suspicious. Don't be afraid to call the police.
And don't be afraid to call us.
Just call.
And
let-
911 is the quickest way to get to us. And sometimes with 911, you have to tell us your location because it doesn't always pinpoint accurately. So tell us you're calling from 23 Pierce Ave and there's a suspicious guy knocking on doors at 10 o'clock at night. Give us a holler. Try to give us a description of him or her, and we'll go from there.
So, like you said, the best way to get a hold of law enforcement is through 911. If anybody had specific questions for Beverly Police Department, or you, Dan or Brian, personally, or not as a police officer, how would they get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to?
Yeah, the easiest way
reach
is
you? Just
is
email, would you say?
email, either
Yeah.
email and
So you
on,
go-
on our website. You can go on our website and all the
Is it
offices.
BeverlyPD.org? Is it? What's the?
Yeah, it is BeverlyPD.org.
BeverlyPD.org.
Or 978-922-1212.
12.
That's direct into the dispatch, and you're going to speak to a police officer.
Excellent. Well, very informative show. We really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Excellent.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you, BevCam. We really appreciate everything that you do. And thank you for watching Jason's in the House once again. If you have any questions for me, feel free to, you can give me a call at 978-927-6030. Or you can go to my website, which is jasonparisellateam.com. We'll see you next time. Thank you.